Welcome to Audio Gyan with Kedar Nimkar, a podcast that documents insightful conversations with Indian designers, artists, musicians, writers, thinkers and creatives of all types. Catch us on iTunes or visit audiogyan.com for more Gyan sessions. Here's your host Kedar Nimkar.
Today I have Narendra Ghate with us, Chief Designer at Tata Elxsi. He's a product design graduate from IDC IIT Mumbai and started his career in 1997. An expert in product planning, automotive styling, graphics, branding and more. He's also a part of the core team that was instrumental in making Industrial Design Division the largest design house in India. Today we'll be discussing about industrial design and what goes into designing from a small shampoo bottle to the most complicated airline systems. We also will touch upon user research and what part does it play in designing these things. So thank you Narendra for giving us your time and welcome to Audio Gyan.
Thank you very much, and it's a great honor to be here, and I think we can have a great conversation today, and this is a topic of my interest, so yeah.
We'll start off with the most basic question. What is considered as a industrial design? What all products are considered under industrial design and how huge the canvas is?
Okay, so the classical definition of industrial design is anything that is mass manufactured, anything that is created for lots and lots of people is considered industrial design, which means if I create a film poster that is going to be seen by hundreds and thousands of people, that is part of industrial design. If I am creating a shampoo bottle that has been sold to hundreds and thousands of people, that is industrial design. If I do a car, it is industrial design. Anything that is mass manufactured where the design has to be done once and then it is repeated across multiple units, that is industrial design. And that's why it is different from architecture, that's why it's different from art and sculpture, where it is typically one-off pieces. Yeah, so here, because it is done for so many people, the process involved is much more deeper, because now you have to consider all the different kinds of people who are going to actually get in touch with your product or something that you're going to consume. The product, people are going to consume this product, and because the people are so many and so different, you have to design for all of them. And this is where anthropometry, all your ergonomics, all those considerations come here, because you're doing something once for lots of people, and that is industrial design.
So we'll take any one case study and just try and understand what are the challenges involved in designing something for such a wide range of users. So maybe ergonomics, cost, recyclability, or any of those parameters you can just highlight upon and take one of the case studies to tell how intense this entire thing is.
Okay, so let's take two case studies, and because these two are diametrically opposite and both are sort of stretching, let's say, some of these definitions. So let's take one of my earliest projects, which was the Pond's talcum powder, the pack or the design of the talcum powder. Now this, when we met Unilever, they had a very simple and relatively scary description to us, saying that, this thing that we are going to design is going to be used by every Indian. And I'm talking about 1998. So it's a long time back. But it was, at that time, I guess talcum powder was much more useful and friendly and famous than what it is now. And Pond's was the biggest brand out there.
Also,
yeah. So now the point is, if I start thinking about that particular project, there were two or three aspects that Unilever had as a problem. One was, and these, so let me start from the engineering issues and then the software issues. One of the big issues that they had was there was a lot of people who were putting in spurious chalk powder as talcum powder. So the earlier plastic packs were, and even now, they're so durable that they don't really go bad. In fact, that's one of the issues, that they are not sustainable. They don't really decompose, right? Which means someone could take an empty bottle, put some chalk powder in it, and just push it into the market. It is to hurt Ponds, not only in terms of revenue, but also in terms of brand. So that was one concern that they had. The second concern, or the second reason why they started off this thing was, and I'm talking about 1998, so it is a bit old, but the pack was even older. It was 15-20 years. After the first metal can, this was the first time that they were going to shift into a plastic can. So it was a big change for them. They were doing some of this for the first time. Though they had other plastic, let's say, lines in their production lines, but Ponds was a very big product for them. And hence the brand, how it comes across as a completely new design was very important. And that's how we started. So of course our process was to very traditional, do the user research, really understand how people use Ponds. And quite a range of people, right, from men who dump it on their backs to women who put it as a deodorant. So there's a range of how Ponds is used, how it is kept, understanding the different sizes that people like. Some want to carry it in their purse, while some want to have a large can in there. So there's an entire range of understanding what people expect, how the product is used. And the third, relatively unsaid but very important when it comes to industrial design, was how is this product currently manufactured. So now Unilever had more than 7 different product lines or factories across India, and all of them had sort of dated equipment. And Ponds, and like the gentleman said, if every person in India is going to use a product, it has that kind of volume, which means this product is made at a rate of about 500 bottles per minute.
Wow.
So that high speed means that you cannot really compromise on the ability to produce at that speed. You cannot create a design that suddenly needs one more person to add a label or press some button or do something. It has to fit in that existing line, which I said was slightly dated. So that automatically became a kind of a shackle on our legs to try and design something that is very modern, but has to be working on these antiquated lines at that kind of speed. So that was some of the issues that we started off with. And then the process was that we did a lot of sketches, we did renders, we had some customer clinics, and finally one of the key points, and since it's an old product, I don't know if people will remember, but this was the first time we introduced this entire new opening mechanism. So it's like a small shutter that you slide, and the, let's say, holes through which powder comes out reveals itself. So there's a entire experience of how you actually reach a product, and that was sort of built into the product so that people feel, even if it's an unconscious movement of the thumb to slide the slider, it is something, it is a positive action that you sort of engage with the product. And again, a quick background to this, and the reason why it is difficult or important. During those times, when you buy a new talcum powder, you needed to have an iron, a hammer, and a small nail. Because
I remember that.
because the holes were concealed, because the talcum powder is hygroscopic, it absorbs water, and that's why it's always sealed, and then you punch a hole in it. And obviously, as designers, we thought that's such a bad way to start up your relationship with the product. It should feel like it's ready to go. I mean, that's what, just to quote again, Steve Jobs insisted that you should have batteries inbuilt, so that the moment I unbox a product, it should be ready to start, and I don't have to search for a battery. So it's a similar kind of thinking where the product should be ready to use, which means we had to actually engineer this entire opening or the sliding mechanism which can prevent water from seeping in. It needed that kind of detailed engineering to have the seals and to be able to be manufactured at that speed. So it was a fairly complicated challenge that we solved. Now the reason I'm sort of going on and harping about this is, you see these bottles, whether shampoo bottles or so often all around you, and they seem so frivolous and so trivial, but there is a lot of engineering, if I may say so, or design that goes behind it to really make it what it is and come to you at the price that it comes to. A lot of our design briefs, there's a very strict price or cost target, and we have to achieve that, because otherwise, if you're selling 1 million bottles a month, 10 rupees here and there makes a big difference. So that was Ponds. And the second case study, just to bring us into today's world and have a completely diametrical opposite view, is what we did for Kochi Metro. Now, Kochi Metro, in a way, stretches the definition of industrial design, because we are not making thousands of units of Kochi Metro, but it is still consumed by thousands and thousands of people because it's a metro system, and hence we sort of conveniently are calling it as a part of our industrial design studio work. And Kochi Metro was an awesome project for multiple reasons. One, it's a government project, and we had a great experience working with the government, because the advantage of government projects, especially when you have this correct set of people, is the scope is vast and the authority given is very vast. So in this case, partly we had sort of helped, let's say, Kochi Metro or our customer realize what impact design can have. And after multiple meetings, they were very convinced that they need to have a central design agency that will define the entire passenger experience. So the brief given to us was to design a complete end-to-end passenger experience for Kochi Metro. And this meant everything that the passenger touches or sees has to be designed.
So it's a physical,
digital, branding, everything, anything, any interface point between metro as a system and the citizens of Kochi has to be designed.
So right from the escalators to the ticket to the...
Yeah, so I will sort of get into the things that slowly became a part of the scope. I still would like to say in terms of why this is so important or so new, and now we're doing quite a few such, let's say, passenger experience projects. In any metro system, there are very compartmentalized departments. So there is a civil department that is completely bothered about the architecture and the building of the stations. There is the rolling stock that is talking about trains. There is the electronics and switchgear that is doing about the signals. So and these departments are typically watertight. To have one agency that will be able to sort of peek into everyone's business was done for the first time. Normally the tenders, the way they come out, are meant for one of these divisions. So in our scope, what we started off with and what we said, and partly we were allowed to sort of define our scope, we started with research in terms of really understanding what Kochi is all about, what the city, what is the character of the city, what is the vibe of the city, especially when tourists comes, and so to really understand what a Kochi citizen would expect. Then of course understanding the nitty-gritties of the infrastructure, what is it that takes to build a metro system and all the issues that we have to be in touch with, because like the Pond's bottle, we cannot really build something or design something that cannot be built. And third was to really benchmark world metro systems, so that we are learning and bringing in the best and trying to find ways to innovate and make it better, to really create a brand that will connect to the Kochi city and the citizens, and also something that can stand for so many things. Now, one of the things that in fact is now currently happening is Kochi Metro right from start wanted to expand into an integrated transport system. So it was not only about the metro, there's a water bus, there's an entire bus system, there is there are some 5 different modes of transport within the city that all would be connected through this brand. So to create an entire branding system for multimodal transport was something that was a key part of this, and this brand really helps connect people, connect the entire thinking. So the brand itself was something that we did. Then in terms of scope, there was large elements of influence in the, let's say, the architectural elements of the station. So how can a particular station in a locality reflect the locality or stand for certain things, and how we can, whether it's through graphics or whether it's through physical elements, how we can make that particular station feel local. And this is where there was a big disagreement or a bit of challenge in terms of how Delhi metro system operates and wanted Kochi to operate, and how Kochi Metro wanted to operate. So in Delhi, for example, all stations are alike, and that becomes a single entity. While in Kochi, they wanted every station to reflect the locality, so that it feels like an experience whenever you get off a station. It doesn't feel like the same thing. And we were, of course, going with the Kochi Metro's point of view that each station should feel different. So in the end, the compromise was that there were a few select stations that were made, very unique, while rest were, slightly standard. So those unique stations is again something that we designed to reflect the locality. Wayfinding, the signage system. I mean, again, you see the signs and it feels obvious, it feels simple. But the point is, there are 2-3 things when it comes to signage systems. One is, imagine if there is a bomb attack or terrorist or some kind of a calamity, the station should be evacuated within 2 minutes. During that time and during that state of mind, how a person reads the exit signs and manages to sort of calmly know how to behave is a science. And that's a very important duty that the signage system does. The other important thing that the signage system does, apart from the wayfinding and the thing that you'll know where to find a toilet, which is which is the simplest thing, is if you think about it, whether you go to an airport or whether you go to a metro system, the authority or the entity that represents the government or represents the metro system is the signage. I mean, apart from some hawaldar that you might see, there is no person that represents the company or represents KMRL or represents the airport. So it's a signage system that really denotes the authority, denotes the seriousness of what you're expected to. And so we were very strong in convincing, and KMRL as a company was also obviously very understanding. We wouldn't want any advertising to sort of mix with signage systems to make sure that the line of vision is very clear. The third point about signage systems, and again I won't go too much into signage, is the readability. The fact that 2-3 different languages have to work well with each other, that people should be able to understand. If you're an illiterate, which is a situation in India.
Which is the classic case in India anyways.
Exactly. So how can you use pictograms so that it should feel inclusive? So if imagine a poor illiterate man, he will not feel welcome in a mall, for example. He feels out of place. But a metro system is something that he should be able to adopt and feel comfortable, feel that it has been built for him. One of the key interfaces, the interface design between this mass transit system and the person is the signage systems. Because if he understands where he is, if he feels comfortable navigating, then he feels confident to use it. So there are a lot of these subtle things that a signage system does that are often not understood, but they're important, and we know it as a profession and we implement it. So that was something again done in Kochi Metro. I mean, we have done it for Bangalore Metro, we have done it for other metro systems. Next point again was the entire train in terms of how it looks. So again, this was done by Alstom, who was the rail coach manufacturer. So certain things were fixed and they wouldn't change. But the fascia and there were other elements that were completely open for KMRL to influence. So we changed quite a few of that. The interiors in terms of its colors, where should the women sit and how should the transition happen, what kind of how many. So there's quite a bit of understanding of usage of a metro system that needs to be done so that we can influence some of the interiors. So that was a fair bit of work that we did. Then the bigger things or the newer things is the entire digital interface. So for the first time, we have a bank, in this case an Axis Bank, who has jointly partnered with Kochi Metro to actually provide a ticketing system. So which is again something that we had a role to play. So with this Kochi Metro ticket, which is almost like a credit card, you can not only purchase a ticket and go from A to B, you can load money through the internet and you can use that same ticket to actually pay for your groceries. So it becomes a single card that connects you to the metro system and the entire Kochi, and it also automatically becomes a financial product that of course Axis Bank has, but you as a person also has. So it's again a very new, almost definitely done for the first time in India. So that was a large thing that so the big advantage I wanted to say is that when you have a single design agency to think about all the interfaces that a passenger can have with a metro system, these are the ideas that sort of come up. I'll give you one more idea that is fairly, I thought it was unique. So we have traveled metro systems across the world. So if you go to Japan, for example, when the door opens, there is this beep, 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 beep sound when the door is opening.
Correct.
And now this is standard built in one of the coach manufacturers. Now we looked at it and we saw, oh, this is a brilliant opportunity. When the door opens, we should have a jingle, like you have the Intel Inside jingle, and that jingle can become something that becomes an audio brand for the Kochi Metro. And the same jingle can become a part of a larger advertisement campaign afterwards. But here I am going through the metro system every day and I hear the same jingle every day. It's not a big jingle, it's a simple set of sounds. That automatically brands the place. Wherever I see it, I'll remember it. It will give me positive memories. So these are opportunities that get lost when all of that is not considered as a single unifying design experience.
But does the, like, just a question here, that do this jingle is also accessibility considered?
Yeah, that's a good, very good point. Accessibility was a fairly large amount. It was given a lot of importance. So whether it is the textured, let's say, tiles that allow you to enter, but this audio jingle that allows you to sort of know that the door is open and where it is again something that was considered. And it is. So that's this. I mean, that's a range of other products also.
I'm just stunned to hear so many interworking systems together, and yeah, it's really awesome. So I'll change a track here slightly, and in like earlier, as you mentioned about doing user research and understanding the gaps which are there in the market, I actually wanted to have some insights on understanding how do you differentiate between a user need and a user want. I'll set the context here that as Henry Ford once mentioned, that if you ask people what they want, they'll say faster horses. So that's what you land up when you do extensive user research also, and you don't break that boundary of really making sure that this is what they need actually, as opposed to what they want. So while working on these systems, while working on these large complex industrial products, how do you go about differentiating what is a need and what is a want?
So it's a great question, and the answer to this question changes with time, and the current times make this question much more relevant.
Yeah.
Because earlier, the needs and wants were very similar to each other. I mean, the person is hungry and he needs food. So, I mean, it was stark. Now almost everybody is getting food, but then they want slightly different tastes. So how do we really understand what taste he's going to have? This is where an often used but fairly important word, empathy, comes in. To be really able to empathize, put yourself in somebody's shoes, and be able to think for him really matters. Now, research is an ability to allow you to empathize.
Okay.
Right? I mean, that's let's say that's my definition of, I think, slightly different twist on the standard definition that is used for research, where it is going and understanding people. I'm saying we need to go a step further and be the person rather than just understand the person. Because, and again, a slight twist or a slight change in what we are saying, with the modern times, with big data, with automation, with AI, every person is different and every person's individual needs can be met because the systems will allow mass customization. Hence, understanding and an ability to be that person is much more relevant now, right? So one of the things that we are doing and which we've been, designers, according to me, are very good at observing, very good at seeing things that other people do not see. So we have researchers who, of course, are the profession in terms of asking the right questions or creating the entire moderation or field research, all of that. But with every project and with every researcher, we always have a designer to go with him, because unless the designer is immersed into the problem or immersed into the situation, he cannot really design for that problem.
Correct.
Right? So it's not art. He's not designing for himself. He has to design for somebody else. So that is an important part of the process where the designer is able to put himself in. And then what happens is, when he's coming up with solutions, coming up with designs, he's able to judge the designs himself. He automatically knows, oh, I love this, but I know my customer is going to hate it, so he's going to drop it. He's not going to take it forward. He knows which will work because now he can think like the consumer. So that's a fairly important part. And I'll give another very practical reason why what I just said is important, at least for people like us who run design agencies. And for us, it's very important that our concepts and our design gets through to the next stage, gets approved, gets liked. So imagine I'm designing a fan or a product, and I'm talking to, let's say, the managing director or the proprietor of that company. Now, it's his product, it's his baby, it's his investment, it's his company, right? He will have a say in terms of what I'm showing him. And very often, and if there are any designers listening, they will all realize, when you see a sketch or when you see a design, everybody turns on their creative hats and they say, isko thoda lal karo do. Why don't you try this? I have seen this in Europe, why don't you put this particular button on it? So it is limitless. Moment we go into our third iteration, I am at a loss. Which means I need to make my design that are apt, that are correct. And when it comes to subjectivity, it's very hard to defend something. I mean, if he says red, why will I say not red? It becomes that simple. So the only way I can defend my design is when I tell him that you might like red, but I know your consumers, I have met them, they hate red because they think red means upshagun. And that's why we made this product in this particular color. Moment I'm able to represent his consumers to him, I and he are at a level playing field, and then he listens to me.
Interesting. Yeah.
And that's the only way I can run my business, because otherwise there's no limit. I mean, I'm a creative person. I can keep giving you red, blue, yellow, green, whatever you want, right? So I should not become a design jockey just doing what somebody else wants. So that's why research has a lot of importance. And
so actually, I'll cut you here, and we'll move to the next question, because that's more like I can see a follow on there, which is the most significant work you have done so far, and which also includes user research, and what would have gone wrong or what would have changed if there was no user research, and what changed because of user research. Do you think of any relevant example?
I'll tell you one of the recent projects that we're doing where in spite of being what we thought was empathetic, we still come across surprise when we really get down to it and we are really true to the word. So there's this product called Spintails. It's been sold in the US and now it's just been launched in India also. It's from a company called Wellspun. So Wellspun is a company that makes rugs, and so they're amongst the world's biggest companies that make, let's say, bed sheets, towels, things like that. And they had this idea of, let's take this rug, creating a rug which can tell stories, which can come alive. So the idea is the rug will have a design on it, and we have a app that goes along with it that you can download. And when you point the app at the rug, then certain stories are told. So the way, and it's slightly more intricate than the way I explained. So for example, if you look at a rug, it looks like a beautiful jungle scene, but there are no animals or nothing in it. When you open the app, there are 3 different stories. When you select any one of the story, you have this entire, you have the stories going in multiple sections. So you have a small animation, then you have a game, and then you have a augmented reality section where the camera turns on and then you're asked to find a banana or find a tree. And when you do that, you see the tree growing in front of you in your camera, like an augmented reality, and then there's a bear that is shaking the bananas down, and things like that. So, and it's fairly successful. I mean, if you look at some of the reviews on Amazon.com, so it's well received. But in the beginning, we were very happy that these animals coming alive and dancing and jumping on the rug itself is such a wow moment that everybody will be happy with it. And this is meant for kids between 3 to 5. And whenever we showed to most of the people that were, let's say, smart but not 3 to 5, they loved the idea. They thought that, these animals coming alive, it's such a magical thing. Kids are going to love it. When we actually started researching with the kids, one very stark and quick realization happened. kids see new things almost every day. So any new thing has a novelty value for 15 seconds. After that, it is routine. So which means we banking on this entire augmented reality thing where these animals are coming alive, itself being a big thing, was false, because kids beyond the first view did not think anything great about it, which suddenly meant the content, the storytelling, what the animal is actually doing became far more important than the fact that, oh, there's magically an animal on my carpet. And so it's things like this that really help you realize that even now empathy and research is so important.
Brilliant, yeah.
So, and I'll give another example which I wanted to give in the earlier question. Again, completely different, but I was talking about observations, right? Designers, and I think all of us, if we are shown something, then you realize, oh, I missed looking at it. Designers are better at observing things that other people miss. And that's where a latent need, because you're talking about wants and needs, a latent need can come up. So we have designed this, let's say, water purifier. And during research, one of the things that we observed, and you tell me if it's true in your family or in any of your friends, that moment the family sort of sits in the table to have food, you realize there's no water. So the youngest son or the has to go get up, stand in front of the filter and fill water.
Yeah.
And it's a pain because you don't have any bottles that are full, and it's a slow trickle of water that is filling. So it's not a big deal. It will take hardly 20 seconds, but it is a issue. And it is a pain point in your dinner experience where you suddenly have to go get up, and water is not ready to immediately get to the table. You have to stand and wait for the water to fall and all of that. And that's where the advantage of being the researcher and the designer in one company. We saw that, we observed that, we realized that that is something that can be a potential USP. And we've created this water purifier where, called Marvel, where there is a jug that is connected to the purifier.
Oh, okay.
So when the water gets filtered, first the jug is filled, and then all the excess water goes and fills into the tank. So what happens at any given time, you always have a jug full of water ready to take away.
Wow.
And then that becomes a talking point. See, in the end, when we are trying to sell a product in a very crowded marketplace, you need to be able to describe it in 2-3 sentences. You need to have something to talk about. And some things like this really help and make a big difference.
Brilliant example. Cool. I think I'll conclude with one last question, which is like, what new products can we see in the coming market, in the coming decades, and also how and what Tata Elxsi is doing overall to improve the experience of people through their products.
So 2-3 things are happening.
First we'll just delve into looking at general Tata Elxsi products, and then probably go more abstract in terms.
So okay, I'll tell you a few of the current projects that are going on. But we are a design agency, so which means we are working for different companies all across the world, and it's their products, and they're the ones who bring it out to the market. And in many times we advise them, but we are mercenary. We are hired guns. We will do what they tell us. So, but yes, we do have a view on what is happening and what should happen, and that helps us win business or do better projects. Now, one of the things that is happening in the last few years, and will definitely happen. Earlier, a design solution would typically lie in a single domain. There would be a graphic design project, a branding project, a product design project. Now, almost none of our projects have a solution in a single domain. So even if I'm doing a product design, there is a branding element, there is a service design element, there is a retail element. If I'm doing a service design project, there is technology elements, there is UX that is involved, there are some touch screens, there is some process design. So this integration of all the design faculties to come together to give a great solution is something that is happening more and more. And which is what we are seeing, and that's why in our studio, as you might have observed, all designers sit together so that there can be a seamless transition between different design domains. The other big thing that is happening, and it's not new, but it is happening more and more faster, is technology is more and more complex. People are no longer trying to understand technology. Your cell phone is expected to work, you will not try and find out why. Your car is supposed to take you from A to B, and you will not bother to open the hood because you won't understand anything. And so what is happening is the poor engineers who have to make sure that the technology works, but it's the designers who have to translate the technology to the users. And moment the interface or the design fails, we have a problem. So going forward, what's happening more and more is this interface between technology and people is getting more and more important. If you look at 5 years ago or 20 years ago, you needed to be taught how to use a technology. So there were user manuals, and there was right. And what used to happen is that technology could do far more than what you used it for. So you will have 20 features or 20 things that some machine can do, but you will use only 10 of them because right. So your expectations from the technology were lesser than what the technology could achieve.
True.
Correct. Now, and in the next 5 years, the exact opposite is happening. So if you take Siri, if you take Alexa, if you take autonomous driving, if you take any of these latest technologies, people, because they don't want to understand technology, assume that the technology can do far more than what it can do. So I'll give an example. You ask Siri or ask Alexa a question that you know your friend can answer or understand, and Siri cannot, and you think it's a dumb system. So your expectations from technology are far more than what the technology can provide.
So true.
I'll give a very simple example, and it's a true story. Wireless internet was made available on planes a few years back. So there was this gentleman or a boy that was sitting, and the plane is flying at 30,000 feet. The air hostess announces, "Oh, we have internet." So he's very happy, fishes out his laptop and connects, and he's able to browse. In about 5 minutes, the link fails or the speed is low or something. And he gets damn upset. He sort of bangs his thing down, saying, "This bloody thing never works." Now just think about it. You're 30,000 feet high in the air. For the first time in your life, you are accessing internet on an airplane. But within 5 minutes, your expectations from it are so high that moment it does not achieve, you have a much more negative brand experience than what the airlines was hoping. The airlines were hoping that you go around shouting, saying, "Oh, for 5 minutes I won't manage to browse." You're going to land and say that, "Oh, these guys can't do it, and they couldn't just give me a simple Facebook connection." So this is what's going to happen everywhere in all the brands. All the brands are in danger of showing expectations from their consumers that they cannot meet. And this is where the life of user experiences is going to come, where they have to really create systems and translate the interactions such that a human will be slightly more tolerant to the technology. He'll understand to be forgiving or start lowering his expectations from technology. So it's almost the other way around, where you teach the person to expect less from the technology. Because what's going to happen is, otherwise the chances of you having a bad brand experience is going to be high, because you're going to expect, take autonomous cars for example. Somewhere in the label it says autonomous car, and then you will think that it can do so many things, but it can't. And then you will think that, oh, you've been cheated. Right? So it is, and that's going to happen for everything. So how do you translate what the technology cannot do is going to be a lot of work that at least on the communication and UX side design is going to do.
I guess this is a good note to end this, since we have so much to explore in the field of design. Feels like we haven't even scratched the surface yet, so it's okay. Thank you, Narendra, for giving us your time and also walking me through the amazing products that you have designed here at Tata Elxsi. I hope to have you again on AudioGyan, where probably we can talk in depth about one product or case study and also share more insights to our listeners. So thank you once again.
Yes, thank you very much. And as I said, it was fun conversing, and it's always fun to discuss design. Thank you very much.
And that's it from today's Gyan session. Catch us on iTunes, Saavn, Stitcher, or any podcasting app you use. Do rate us on iTunes and follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Stay tuned for more Gyan on audiogyan.com. Till then, bye.